is actually quite beautiful. This is it's like an armchair. I don't know if this is gonna record. Blow up. I don't know. Who knows? It's like an armchair. You probably can't hear me. Such is life. It's like a little armchair. And it's just below the surrounding rocks. It's been going just over the edge. Yeah. I can feel it actually. No, I can feel it from here. Marvellous. It's my video response to can you recognise somebody wiser than yourself? Can you recognise somebody wiser than yourself? And he did something wrong, and he knew he did something wrong, and it nearly killed him. That's an indication of someone's wise. So if they do something wrong, they're kind of remarkably sensitive. Tell you why. It's because they're not putting any barriers up against them. They're not like projecting. They're not like protecting themselves. They're not investing in any kind of like survival tactics. They're engaging the world all the time present, which means that they're very fresh, very alive. You can tell when you meet them, but it makes them incredibly vulnerable. But they have ways of dealing with that. If their awareness is strong enough, and their life force and so on and so forth is strong enough, and it's coming out fantastic, they can deal with incredibly aggressive environments like this guy was working in. Chose for some reason, after doing a degree in English literature, to go and help people in London, in halfway house, drunk kind of thing. And it's a tough job. And he wasn't doing it with any kind of self-protective devices. He was just being vulnerable and assisting people. For him to even choose to do that, respect. So that's just marvellous. It's beautiful. And so that's another way you can kind of tell a wise person is that they're really fresh and really alive. And they're not projecting upon you. They're not looking at you and judging and evaluating whether they like this, they don't like that, or they like this about you, where they're thinking about whatever the fuck it is that you're saying, and they're judging, oh, that's not quite right, and they're critically. Look, you can meet these people and they're like to a penny. They're really common. However, if you have somebody in front of you who's actually just present, as clean as that, and yes, they have their own ideas, yes, they're integrated, but they don't project it, they don't need to kind of like tell you that, they're just being. And hopefully, if you're in the right state, and if you happen to be lucky enough to meet one, and you're kind of open enough, you probably have to be quite wise and integrated to get that, you can kind of go, oh, wow, and the person can say something useful to you. Like Buddhists, various people like that, gurus and so on, do that kind of thing. They're just kind of nice bots. And if people put themselves into the right state, meditation, extreme cleanliness, and then they kind of like, they do this for like hours and hours and hours, days and days and days, and starve themselves, and God knows what. And then they put themselves in front of one of these people, guru kind of type. And the guru guy just says, all is love. And because they've cleaned themselves, and they're really kind of on the edge of themselves to go, oh, that's amazing. Guru, guru, guru. And they bow. And they think this guy's amazing. Fantastic. Right? But what I'm trying to suggest is that if we improve our ability just minimally of listening, of kind of cooperating, if we can do that, we can kind of like improve our ability to listen so that we don't judge it. So, hopefully we need some exercises to achieve that. But I think another way is to recognise people who are wiser. And that's an easier way of doing it. No gurus, not anything special, just anybody that you meet and you go, wait a minute, this person's fresh. And there are people that you know, whether you're a kid in a school, or you're a student at university, or a college, or you're in work, or you're just anywhere at work. There are people that you meet, whether it's at a social event or anywhere, that are just kind of fresh, and they're not drawing attention to themselves. And they're just a little bit fresher, and they're trying to do things, and they're working stuff out, and it's slightly odd maybe, and if they're really nice about it, they're really gentle. I'm a bit spidey. but the nicest ones are kind of like well-read. And you kind of go, wait a minute, this is slightly, and then you just listen. You just kind of go, wait a minute. Befriend them, doesn't really matter. Take some time out with them, find out what they're talking about. You actually have to ask them, or for them to show you stuff. And because they're not gurus and they're not setting themselves out like that, and nobody's introducing them that way, you are, and you're empowering them. That's how we do it, ladies and gentlemen. And you empower people that are wise. Equivalent, well, if they're any degree wise, they'll kind of go, ooh, you're good too, and they'll reflect it back to you. If you're wise enough to spot them, they are presumably wise enough to spot you. Who's wise? And you end up in this kind of like, no, you're wise. No, you're wise. No, you're wise. So it's not like, oh, me, and political power, and, fighting to get to the top. It's the opposite. It's more like, I bow to you. No, I bow to you. No, please, you first. No, please, you first. And it's kind of like apologizing to each other the most. Until eventually one says, oh, you're right, okay, you are wise. No, okay, I'll accept that I'm wiser, you're actually wiser. And they kind of respect the relationship. And that's how you do it. That's how we create something like socially. Just by friends. People you know. So can you recognize people? How? I put a few points. Don't reply to this. Well, you can if you want to. Go back to the original question. The original question is fantastic. The original question. How can you recognize somebody wiser than you are? Can you? First of all, can you recognize somebody wiser than you are? And if so, how? I think by the time I'm 70, or just before I die, it might be a bit later, to actually know that, to actually know. Of course, we'd all like to be in a position, by the time we're 60 or 70, people are actually paying attention to us. Because we can't do it by drawing attention to ourselves. We can't say, hey, I'm beautiful, I'm sexy. No. You can't do it by, hey, I'm entertaining, exciting, and youthful. No. You can do it by saying, I've got a fuck of a lot of money, I'm in a power position. That's kind of, you have to fight for that stuff. It'd be really nice if you just had people just walking about. Could be your grandmother, could be your grandfather. And they don't appear to be doing anything very much. And yet, they can say things to you that are really valuable. And most grandparents and stuff, they've lived their lives in boxes, and they've just followed the normal course of their, However, there are a few out there that are like jewels. Not like jewels. Like in a desert, like a flower. No, like a cup of water. If you're in a desert, it's just, or in the sea, days without any water, and you have this kind of rains. It rains, and you're like, whoa, the drink is just like wow. Rare. A lot of rain out now. But, where is it? I think it's kind of taste. If you can see it and if you can respond to it, if you can have value to it, I think it's a kind of taste that can you recognise something wiser in yourself? So how? It's kind of like a taste. It's not like an external test. We can test you. Hey, you got 73%. It's or you're listening to me and you judge me. Quite frankly, nobody gives a fuck. However, I'm interested in you, and what you believe, and what you think. Definitely. I'm not interested in your judgment. You wouldn't be listening this far if you're judging. Cool, isn't it? What a brilliant question! Feed forwards. Feed forwards. Respond to this, feed forwards.